Welcome back. It's time for State of the Nation, and today we're talking about the revenue allocation row, and the crisis talks were aborted yet again. Last time they tried to meet, and of course there was a lot of acrimony and back and forth and shouting matches. This time there was a lack of quorum. 7 out of 9 senators skipped the meeting, forcing the joint team to adjourn the session to September the 11th. Now, we are asking you on Twitter, do you think there is political goodwill that's going to aid in solving this particular stalemate that is now actually affecting the functions of the county governments? Accusations have been going back and forth. The National Assembly has been accused of trying to kill devolution, and obviously the National Assembly's big question is, where is the money going to come from? So get on Twitter and tell us what you think. Do you think there is political goodwill to unlock the county revenue deadlock? I'm at Trix Ingado. The official hashtag is KTN Morning Express. I'd like to know what you think, and I'll be sampling your views as we go on with this show. But now let's get back to my panel, and I'd like to think what you think with the latest well, the meeting that fell through. It didn't happen actually. So what's your view of that, Speaker?
I don't know why the senators did not turn up, but I know that what the devolution is asking for is not really a favor. I have heard during our break someone mention something like a sacrifice.
Yes, a sacrifice has to be made.
Sacrifice somewhere.
Yeah, and we'll ask him to elaborate and give us that proposal.
They will need to come on air and say that. But I don't know why sacrifice, because we have KRA, Kenya Revenue Authority, which collects money. The assumption which I'm finding here is that KRA collects money for national government, and the national government is now supposed to appropriate some of its money to the county governments.
Yes.
But that is not the case. County governments have functions which have been transferred to them, and county governments do not collect taxes. They only collect rates. The body which is charged to collect taxes on behalf of national and county government is KRA. So KRA is not for national government, as many people would make us believe. It is for the two governments. And so once the money has been collected, there's another body that is called the CRA, Commission on Revenue Allocation. They are the ones who are charged by the law then to decide what then is the share out of the money collected. How much is it that's supposed to go to the county government, and how much of it is supposed to go now to the national government? And then based on that, the National Assembly then appropriates to both the levels of government, and National Treasury releases the funds as per the appropriation, as per the Division of Revenue Bill. Now, that is what we have disregarded as a country, as a National Assembly, claiming there is no money. We're not talking about money that does not exist. We're only talking about the money which is collected on behalf of the two governments, not anything else. Now, when you go to the issue that was taken to the Supreme Court, the COG and the senators went to the Supreme Court in a meeting I attended also, so that the Supreme Court then can give guidance and can advise if the guidance which is given by the CRA, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, holds water as a constitutional body. That's what they are there to do. They draw salaries to do that. Now, the issue was, can the Supreme Court then guide on whether the National Assembly can disregard what has been given by a constitutional body which is mandated to do that? Now, the Supreme Court decided to go the mediation way, even though the mediation process had already been tried as per the Constitution and failed. But they still give another opportunity for that mediation process to still take place. And I know for sure Senate may not have been very much positive on that, because for the Senate, it wanted and it requires the Supreme Court to give guidance for posterity, because we have had these cases from time to time. So we have had instances where National Assembly has jumped the gun. And of course, I would understand sometimes when the Supreme Court wants to still go back to mediation, which the National Assembly prefers, because it has the muscle. Now, the Supreme Court may sometimes want to go that direction also, because they have also their money appropriated there by the National Assembly. And they also know that if they rule in favor of the Senate and devolution, there are also possibilities, probably, some of their money may be cut. from the Supreme Court or from the JSC and put in the devolution to cover for that. You get it? And so I understand when they do that, and of course that would show, lack of forthrightness.
Okay.
I think what needed to have been done very fast, and it did not need to prolong this far. It was the Supreme Court just to give the advisory and say, are the things, and because there were so many things, the issues that were raised by COG and by the Senate, they were supposed to just advise and give a clear guidance on what ought to have been done.
Yes.
And that would have resolved the matter. And probably that's why the senators are avoiding waiting for the time to elapse. Then the Supreme Court will give the guidance that was supposed to have given 30 days ago or 15 days ago.
Yeah, and they tried the first meeting and it was nothing was being heard, nobody was being heard, so they couldn't really have any meaningful
I sat
mediation.
in that meeting.
Yes.
I was in that meeting, and there are just a few things we must get. First of all, there's nothing wrong with the Supreme Court apply alternative dispute resolution.
Yes.
It's used all the time, matters. It saves the court's time, it saves everybody's time. You parties can agree. And that's what has been given an opportunity. Now, it means when the Supreme Court gives guideline, then none of the two sides should feel it's been against them if they lose.
Yes.
And it's very clear, a budget is a tool of the executive. It's advised by Treasury. And the moment you do not follow the advice of Treasury, who are the ones with the estimations, because you see some of the monies are appropriated even before they've been collected by KRA, and the Kenyans are again running away from taxes. So, Bwana Speaker here, he is protecting Kenyans who are not paying. And he wants money for the counties. And President Uhuru asked, show me
that I'm protecting anyone who is not paying taxes. In fact, everyone must pay taxes.
Everyone must pay taxes, and then we will not have this problem. President Uhuru is saying, show me where the money is, and I'll give it to you.
Yes, actually.
And then we are saying we have already appropriated for the executive, the national government, for parliament, and for judiciary, the three arms of government. If now, and he's also saying, first work with what you have. And as the collections are made in the course of the year, we will cover up the budget if the monies are available. And in a lot of times, these counties don't even use this money in the financial year.
We're being told right on page 11, the 47 counties had only spent 228.4 billion by the end of the 2018.
So they did use all the money.
How much had been submitted to them by the end of the year?
Oh, that's another question. That's a good question.
But you did not use even what you had.
No, not really. If you check, you'll find that what was submitted to the counties was used, except what was submitted in the last 1 month or 2 months.
And you still returned money to the treasury.
You don't return.
And therefore, it is very simple.
Yes.
If you can find out where to get the money, and probably one of the places we should get the money is the parliamentary allocation.
Yes.
Senators, since they love devolution so much, willing to cede their budget to the counties.
Is that going to
where
happen,
they know very well this money is being stolen anyway. So I think let's end this matter. When there's a dispute like this, 50% is supposed to go to the counties so that work does not stop. Let the 50% go to the counties from Treasury, and we keep on reviewing this matter, and as soon as either the Supreme Court or the two sides can resolve, then we have an answer. But as you can see now, Senate is no longer interested. Everybody gave an excuse why they should not come to the meeting. The quorum was denied. The meeting cannot proceed, and therefore we remain with what is the status.
Yes, and nothing's changing, Mr. Osida.
Tricks.
Yeah.
My way of looking at this is we have serious gaps in the manner in which you want to roll out devolution. But the bottom line is that devolution is here to stay, and that a few individuals, and I think I've said this over and over again, allow me to repeat it, whose interest is to mess up devolution. I think they have been overtaken by time and events. Devolution is here to stay. The much we can do, and every government that comes in place really needs to work hard to strengthen and protect devolution, so that citizens really feel the power of the people that they put in office, and that services are also delivered.
Right.
Number two, the gaps that have been put forth by this, and one of these is I think the crafters of our constitution never envisioned this kind of crisis before, but continuously and progressively we have had this kind of a crisis. But then initially the talk has been that we are not disbursing enough resources to the counties, and my co-panelists have also raised that concern that yes, money was given, but is that the full amount of money that should have been taken to the counties? So that also needs to be looked at in terms of how have we progressively remitted monies from treasury to county governments. The second question is the usage and how that money has been used. And I think His Excellency the President and several other speakers have come to the fore and said, we cannot be sending monies to the counties and that money is being misappropriated, being misused and all that. But look at the flip side is that devolution has really done tremendous things in many parts of this country.
Sure.
There are lives that today are there because there is a hospital that was put forward or put somewhere in Marsabit, Isiolo, Mandera and elsewhere just because of devolution. So that really is a point that cannot be we can't overemphasize that point because it's clearly present, it's there, we can see. What therefore needs to happen is, in my view, let's look at the engagement between National Assembly and the Senate. What is the issue? And informally, because as civil society organizations, we are also interested in this issue, and we also have had as an opportunity to exercise a bit of mediation.
Right.
In some of the discussions with some legislators, they've said governors don't respect them. Senators don't respect members of the National Assembly. Now, that is really a serious concern, because then how is Parliament working? And I think respect is something that you cannot touch. You can only see it. And of course, you exercise it by virtue of what you see happening and how it's being given to you. And you also you have the right to receive and also to give. So I think that what we need to really emphasize is the advisory from the Supreme Court. What did they discover from the prayers that were made by the Council of Governors amidst the request that the petition that was presented? So that then we go back and ask ourselves, how do we respond to those issues? But in the meantime, Waswahili wasema faili wawili wakipigana ni nyasi ndio huumia. In this matter, it is the citizens who are suffering. People who probably do not even understand what this,
and that was the main area that I wanted to move to after this, because now, while members of the National Assembly say the boycott is a calculated move to sabotage any settlement to the stalemates, we are forgetting that the same counties that were meant to benefit from devolution and these allocations, and then the actual allocation of 335 billion shillings that is being requested by the government, they're not benefiting. They're now in limbo. So these county governments are suffering for it. I'd like your sentiments on that.
Yeah, I will explain that. I will give a comment on that. But there are three quick things I would like to clarify, which have been raised by the other panelists. One of them is what Mheshimiwa Manzo has said, that the National Assembly received advice from Treasury, which they need to respect.
Okay.
That is one of the contentious issues that need to be resolved by the Supreme Court. Should National Assembly receive advice from Treasury, in essence, executive, or should they receive advisory from the independent constitutional body which has been mandated to give that advice?
This is the
Commission on Revenue Allocation,
yes.
Who should advise Parliament.
Yes.
And should the advice from CRA be disregarded and the advice from Treasury be taken? So that is the first issue that need to be resolved through the Supreme Court. The second issue, which Mheshimiwa Manzo has also raised, is that why ask for extra funds, send the money to the counties, and it will be misused anyway, it will be stolen anyway. And I say that is a propaganda out there, say, that has been used by those people who have who are against devolution. Because look, we are talking of sending 327 or 335 billion shillings to the county, to the counties, to the devolved units across the country. But let's ask ourselves, in the last scandals that we have experienced in just 1 year, how many billions of shillings have we lost in those scandals? The billions of shillings we have lost in one of the scandals that we are handling now, the Amwarol and the Kimorel Dam. We are talking of loss of 21 billion shillings as of now. And if you add up these billions that we are talking about, of course, plus what taxes that have been evaded, we are talking of well over $500 billion just in 1 year. 1 year. $500 billion that has not been that has been misappropriated. This money has not been misappropriated by the county government. It has been misappropriated by the national government. Now, can you imagine? This is more than what the national government or than what the counties are getting. And now you want to say that all the monies that we are sending to the county government is being wasted or is being misappropriated. Yet, this $335 billion that we are asking for is what is being used to pay all the staff that are in the county government, is what is being used to make all the roads, all the hospitals. We are not saying that there is no misappropriations at the county levels. But the misappropriation issue is a problem across the country. But if you look at the amounts that are being wasted at the national government vis-a-vis at the county governments, you will see even in terms of even percentages, it is far much more in the national government than it is in the county government. So you cannot then use an excuse of money will be wasted. What needs to be done is that the bodies that take action on people who misappropriate and steal money need to be action need to be taken by those bodies. We have EACC, DCI, and all the others. So don't use excuses that we will not give money because it will be stolen. Give the money. Let someone steal. Deal with them squarely at every level of government. The third issue is the issue of the counties have not used the monies that they were given. You know, you cannot fail to, like now, look, we have how much time are we wasting at this point? We have wasted now we are on the 3rd month now wasting, and money has not yet been, disbursed to the counties. And this happens even when there is no disagreement, even when there is no impasse. You find that money is not then submitted to the counties. And if you, for example, give Nyeri County, let's say like a whole $500 million or 1 billion shillings between April and June. When you're almost closing the financial year. How much absorption then do you expect them to absorb at that particular time? You get? It can only be a certain percentage.
Do you feel this is calculated?
Of course. Okay, let's agree. As a country, let's agree we have a problem with the cash flow. Because a lot of money that we're also collecting, we're also paying debts. So that is not lost on any one of us. So we know that at some point the national government or the treasury, let me not say the national government, let me say the treasury is not able to submit these funds to the county governments in the right time. So once you have submitted this money so late in the day, it is not then fair to then use that reason as why you're not going to be giving more cash or more funding to the county governments in the right proportion, in the right manner when the time comes. Now, when it comes to the common mwananchi who is being affected, it's clear that the common mwananchi in this country doesn't belong to devolution and doesn't belong to the national government. The person who is being impacted by lack of funds on the ground is the same person. And this person doesn't know national government and doesn't know county government. This person, what they want is the health care. This person, what they want is the water. It is the roads. Hospitals. So what we need to do as leaders and as national government and county government is to come up with a resolution as fast as it is practically possible so that these funds can then be released. It shouldn't even matter who gets what. I think if this $335 billion was being released to go and help the same common mwananchi, why should it matter? Why should it be a problem to anyone sitting in any high office?
Well, the problem comes in with the question, where is the extra money going to come from? That's the big question.
We are actually not talking of extra money, by the way. We are only talking of just appropriate the money correctly, what is there correctly, using the right formulas. Now, if the formula has already been applied by CRA and they have come up with $335 billion as what is supposed to go, why are we talking of extra money? We are talking of the 335 of the total sum. So the other bodies will take the remaining bit. But for the county government, it's clearly indicated in the constitution. It's not negotiable. So give it, then be left with the rest, dividing it amongst. And that's where Mheshimiwa here is saying that the National Assembly, the Senate, can see the part of their budget to ensure that they cover this deficit. And of course, and you understand very well that the executive is highly bloated. You know that we have introduced so many positions
Those are the
in
sacrifices
government.
we're saying.
You know we have so many parastatals.
Yes.
You know, like in the Ministry of Agriculture, you have in excess of 50 parastatals, which can actually be handled by only 5 parastatals. You have one parastatal which deals with all the issues of agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, then you have another one. I mean, especially when you look at the livestock, fisheries, and all that. You merge them, then you will be able to save money. And that money will then go to the common mwananchi through the devolved system, so that the common mwananchi can get services in a more efficient manner.
Do you agree?
Yes, well, I just want to say that the Constitution actually recognizes 15%.
Yes.
And the national government or treasury or the executive has even gone beyond that and has followed the advice of CRA before. But again, CRA has to be guided by treasury, the person with the money. If you don't respect treasury and you don't want to listen to their advice, then you can't get anywhere with this, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who tell you, CRA has collected this, this is what we have, this is what we can appropriate, these are our debts, these are our problems. We all want to support the devolution.
Do we then need
And
CRA?
the devolution is a very, very important.
Or are they gobbling funds for no reason? Can we then, as Parliament, can we review the Constitution and do away with the CRA
itself,
and then have Treasury
be
advising everyone?
the only body.
All these bodies must work together. And we are saying we must listen to each other, be reasonable with each other, and work for the common mwananchi. And most important, I want to agree with him that whoever is stealing money in the counties, and even in the national government, must be dealt with. We must deal
even in the
with
parastatals.
Even in the parastatals, we must deal with wastage. And even at one point, there was a policy that now we reduce the parastatals be formed in this country. But I keep on seeing them be proposed by the same government every day at the National Assembly.
Yes.
And we have very little to do, because some of them look useful. And we keep on adding parastatals, and they keep on stressing and stretching the budget of this country. But most important, now we have started exporting oil. And I'm very grateful to President Uhuru and his government on that one. Because in the other parliament, I really hit him on it. I say, look, where can we exploit our resources? Where is our oil? And now we have sold over 1 billion shillings. And there is a hope in this nation that we are going to raise enough money if we utilize the resources we have, if we do proper agriculture, if there is no corruption, which the president and the NASA team are helping him fight corruption in this country. So once we fight corruption, we'll have enough money for the counties.
Why is this laughable to you?
I think the NASA team is helping fight corruption.
Yes.
NASA team or the
Through the
EACC, or the EACC and DCI.
But
No, not necessarily.
your take.
Tricks, I was still actually just on the issues that are coming up, because if we do not take time to deal with what is happening now, then this might probably repeat itself, because we've seen this kind of things happen in this country. So the second thing I wanted to raise on my earlier points was that we also need to look at the manner in which we undertake our annual audits. The Auditor General's term is just expiring. In fact, he left office yesterday.
Yes.
And you note that even today we are still talking about 3-year audited. The last audited account that we are using to appropriate our budget, if I'm not wrong, Waheshimiwas, is for 2016-2017.
Yeah.
And by that time, what was the national budget of this country? Was it 1.8 trillion?
Yeah.
Today we are talking 3.2 trillion.
Yes.
You know, those are gaps that I think really need to be looked at, so that then we build the capacity of the Office of the Auditor General to be able to undertake very, fast and effective audits, which are then able to guide the people who are supposed to, whether it's CRA or Treasury and others. The third thing is to tighten governance. And here the president, I think, has been very clear around it. There's a time he was at State House or one of his functions, and he was saying, do you want me to read you the places that are eating our monies? And yet we have ghost workers. And he started with the National Police Service. And he was saying, imagine every year we are spending X amount of money paying people who don't exist. Now, if the president himself can come forward and begin the discussion at that level, then it means, in my view, from a civilian perspective, but of course technically governance perspective, is the gentleman is already issuing an executive order, though not written, but verbally spoken, that there is someone who now needs to undertake an audit of human resource frameworks of the country and say, where exactly do we have bloating? Because this had already been done with the county governments from transition authority perspective, and they were saying counties have this number of staff they need to reduce to this level and exercise fiduciary in a manner that then shows that we have resources to undertake certain functions, but also spend paying people. So we need to exercise governance and tighten our governance, but also hold people to account. How to do it is to, one, EACC needs to do its work. We were just talking about the lead story where 250 billion shillings has been lost. And here we are talking 35 billion. Imagine if people just patriotically paid their taxes. That money would be found. We'll not be talking about sacrificing people's travel allowances, you know. 35 billion against 250 billion really is money which, in my view, is not even, it's many times more than what we are talking about. So when we tighten our governance and the institutions that are supposed to exercise their responsibilities and roles, that money will be found, but also to hold people to account that for governance, because again the president has come forward and said, show me where the money is, we will pay. But again, we can't be sending money to people who are going to steal it. Arrest them. Yes, we have given you opportunity to come and defend yourself, but you can't be sending your lawyer to the corridors of justice and out there you're on media saying, hawezi niguza, mimi ni baba yao ama mama yao ama whoever you think you are. Arrest them and take them in, and then people will see governance and leadership taking place. And the Kenyans, there is a time in 2002, 2003, where people are even arresting police officers. People will go to those counties and start arresting their chief officers. They will start arresting people who in their minds they feel are stealing their resources. Because really we can't be having a scenario where services can now not be delivered because of 35 billion. But I think fundamentally to speak is that there is need for dialogue. National Assembly and Senate need to sit, reorganize yourselves, think through how we need to jump over this issue. And for small things that we can sacrifice over, tomorrow you will not be a senator, tomorrow you will not be a National Assembly member, you won't be anything in my view. You will be a civilian like Kevin Osido and at least Awani Waishimiwa. You'll be a civilian like myself. What kind of life do you want to live in the village? Do you want to have a scenario where there are no medicines, where doctors are on strike because you're holding on to their pay? I don't think that is a legacy that any good, well-meaning, honorable member really wants to leave that kind of legacy for the work which they have been elected to do.
That is true. And while you're saying there is need to, you know, have dialogue, clearly it's not going to happen because the meetings are falling apart one after the other. And Honorable Badi,
the speakers of the two houses have been silent on this issue. It's really a concern to me even as a citizen, because I think that the people who, you know, chaperone and start the houses really, beyond the, other than the office of the clerk, should be the speaker and their silence. I don't know.
I'm aware that, at least I'm aware, and I know the Speaker of the Senate wouldn't mind if I said this, because we have had a discussion one-on-one with him on this issue. And one of the things he said and he told me is that he has approached a few respected senators and members of parliament, the elders. And what he assured me is that they would actually go and have a sitting with His Excellency the President and try to look at this issue and see if this issue can be resolved amicably, away from even the glare of the media. So I want to hope he has succeeded in that. I think there's even some media house which had leaked a link, saying that an agreement has already been made. And I actually thought it was coming from that. And maybe just maybe that kind of an agreement has been made. And if that would be done, it means that the speakers are not just quiet. They're trying to work behind the scenes. And that if they succeed in that, then we can have this issue resolved away from this kind of a disagreement that we are seeing here. Because I would say, if I was asked to say where the money is, if someone came and asked me, show me the money, I would advise that we revisit the Abdikadir report on the parastatus. We already paid for that. I don't know what the outcome was, but we would be interested as Kenyans to see what the outcome was, because they already worked on that. And maybe that would help us to cut down on so many expenses,
unnecessary expenses.
And maybe we will just be lucky to find the money.
We might be. And
I want to agree with the speaker that the two speakers of the House, you know, senior statesmen, and they love this country, and I'm very sure they're working behind the scenes to make sure that everything is harmonized. What is most important is that this scenario is already fixed in the law There's a constitution of Kenya, and there are other laws which already provide the mechanism of dealing with this. And I believe my speaker, Honorable Muturi, is apply the law accordingly, because the two speakers also cannot act without the law. They must follow the law. The country, the president must follow the law, and the members of assembly and the senate and the governors must follow the law which you have already put in position. And I believe if we apply that correctly, and this matter is going to be resolved, there is hope for the nation that it will soon be sorted and devolution will prosper.
Follow the law, I mean, put an end to some of the losses that you are facing. What about asset recovery? We are talking about arresting these people. What about even after arresting them, making sure that these monies are brought back? What do you think this would aid in just making sure we keep the money where it needs to be?
It would help a lot.
Yeah.
And once again, the bodies that are doing the investigations, they would do us a lot of justice if they stopped using this issue for propaganda reasons. If they stopped arresting people on Friday.
So that they spend the weekend.
They would do us a lot of justice by, kindly, silently going through their own investigations. And then they go to the court when they have a watertight case. And that way, and I think that is one of the proposals in the Punguza Mizigo, that, one of the proposals they are making there is that prosecute people within a certain number of days. I think about 30 days.
Yes.
That's what they are proposing.
So that we put an end to this long-drawn
And people wonder how that could happen.
Like the way we do the election petition.
Yeah, like the way we do election petition. You fix a number of days.
Figure it out before.
But you see, that will only be possible if you take the case to court when you have watertight evidence. Case. You don't wait until you have done a lot of hula ballows, a lot of PR, a lot of up and downs.
Naming and shaming.
Naming and shaming. Then by the time you're going to the court of law is now when you're realizing, you did not even have enough evidence, and you're already asking for more time to go and collect evidence. So why not just do everything before we even announce that we are doing this? And then at that point, we can be able to have watertight case. And you see, that way, then we'll be having successful prosecutions. Now, once you have successful prosecution, you then be able to asset recover.
Yes.
Other than freezing everything everywhere, then you go lose the case. Then you are taken to court.
Yourself.
You unfreeze, but I also take you to court to pay for the loss during the time that you had freezed. You see, that way the government will have a lot of liabilities.
Right.
The other issue, of course, is an issue where we can use a different approach, which had already been suggested by NCCK and the church, the religious bodies.
Yeah.
That why not also have an approach whereby we can have, what do you call it, where you give people a grace period, where you have people come forward, report themselves, and negotiate. You plea bargain.
Yes.
You plea bargain.
But you also have to squeeze them with some sort of leverage before they can do that. Yeah.
I mean, you first of all have to make it possible. You probably have to prepare a law that would be able to accommodate that, and then you can use whatever other pushing that is necessary. Then someone will be asked. We are now looking at 1920 to 1940. Those people who imagine or think they took anything that was public, come forward.
I would love to see that.
Now, we then go from 1940 to 1980. Anyone who thinks they took anything, come forward.
Yeah.
And if you come forward, we will now plea bargain. We will probably negotiate and agree that you will give us this, and for your own survival, you will have 1, 2, 3. Are you getting?
Yeah.
And then that way, we have a lot that is returned, and we keep closing those books.
Yeah.
Then we come to the most recent ones. And we say, if you know in the last 5 years, you have also taken 1, 2, 3. And then once we do it that way, probably we'll have more people who will be willing to surrender. Then, if you do not surrender, and we catch up with you, now it is you and your God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have to add to the solution?
I really think we must have a system whereby we should have assets recovered. First, the government or the investigators must identify when you stole the money, you bought this piece of land, it is traceable. And or when you stole this money from Kenya, you took it to the X country.
Yeah.
And we have seen some cases going on, though we have not seen any successes so far. But good planning and having identified the property and having a good relationship with the other governments where these things have been hidden, then I believe a lot can be recovered and can be brought to Kenya. And the government has been successful in one or two of them. Most important is where you first ask these people, because some of these are people who have led this country before. Ask them now, you know you have stolen X, Y, Z. Can you return 90%? And we leave you with 10%. And with that, we will be able to recover
I'm quite skeptical about that here in Africa, not just Kenya.
Most important, when we are amending the law, and no one is looking at this, we need now to reintroduce the death sentence.
Is it the Punguza Mzigo that was pushing for a sort of very strict sentence?
There must be very strict sentences on people dealing with corruption, so that you know, wherever you are caught, you will never benefit from corruption. And that there are strict laws to make sure it is equivalent to life, because when you steal from the nation, you are killing very many people in very many other ways. And therefore, we must come with death sentence like some countries, so that whoever steals public money knows that you will not live to benefit from it. And there must be a way of recovery even from the estates, should such people lose their lives in one way or another, so that what was stolen from the state comes back to the
Or even
state.
tracing them outside the country, I think, because some of these people actually have their riches being stored in offshore accounts, as the reports have indicated.
In some countries, when you are found guilty of stealing, you are shot dead, and your family pays for that bullet. That was used to shoot you dead.
As we wind up.
From where I sit, the fact that there is already an asset recovery agency is already good enough, I think. So,
but is it working?
Now, that's the other question, on whether it's working or not. But I think what we need to do, which again we don't do very well as Kenyans, is monitoring some of these MDS ministries, departments and agencies, and the work which they are supposed to do, which I think really goes back to them, because unless we strengthen institutions, those institutions, we may never have an opportunity to really know what they are doing. And part of strengthening is really them also having the volition to want to come out and tell Kenyans, you are a CEO of a government, parastatal. What exactly are you doing? What are you about? What are your successes? What are your weaknesses? And how do you think Kenyans can be able to collaborate or partner with you to have your work successful? Because otherwise, there is a lot of energy, too much talk, but very little action, which sometimes makes Kenyans become quite lethargic to even government business and how we do our things. And so if we can be able to have even a scorecard on some of these successes, because Kenyans feel the weight of corruption, that you get so much taxed, but yet when certain big names when you hear certain big names, is really attached to corruption, money which has been stolen, money which really needs to be brought back to this country to be able to ensure that certain roads are built, that certain government officials who are supposed to deliver services are paid, and that really Kenyans have a life which we keep saying Vision 2030. That life where you feel you have it all and you have money in your pocket. Young people are getting employed, and the big four agenda is working, manufacturing is creating opportunities for young people, and food security, people are not dying in the country, but we're not seeing that happen. So for a person who has been given the responsibility to come out there and do his or her work like an agency for asset recovery, tell us, let us know, buy spaces on the standard and tell us what you have done. Let's know what you have done, and then as Kenyans, how do you think we can be able to work with you? But as we talk about that, and as we close from my end, counties also need to share what they are doing on source revenue. As we talk about,
that's a good point.
Counties, really, we have a lot of resources in this country and at the county levels. What is it that the governors and their teams are doing to supplement, and because that's one of the sources of revenue for county governments.
And they're basically organizations that can actually leverage the resources at the county level, which was, I think, one of the goals of devolution, to be able to use your resources to make life better for the people. And maybe we might have less of a money crunch when we have such stalemates. Thank you very much, gents, for being a part of this conversation. State of the Nation ends right there. But